the weirdest reading month of my life. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing my April reading wrap up, and April was a very strange reading month for me. I read, I think 14 books, which is pretty dang good. Like, round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I had a lot in the 3-star range, a lot in the 4-star range, which was beautiful. I think I only had one 5-star, maybe 2, but like I'm pretty sure it was just 1. And then I had a 2-star book. So we're across the board. We are across the board. But that's okay. As always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And if you want to see more content from me in the future, make sure to hit the subscribe button. The first book I read this month was Business Casual by B.K. Borison. I got an arc of this one. It comes out in July. This is the 4th book in the Love Light Farm series. Let me tell you something. I've not read a single book in that series, but for some reason I was like, yes, let's start with the 4th book. Let's just start there. Interconnected standalones, and I guess in a weird roundabout way, I kind of proved that you don't have to read any of them to be able to read whichever book you want in the series, because I started on the 4th one. I was not confused at all. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I'm giving it 4.75 stars. I do wonder if I had read the previous books before this one, if my rating would have been just like a little higher. But like, who's to say? Maybe one day I'll do a reread. But I really love this one. Business Casual is set in a small town. We are following Nova and Charlie. Nova has grown up in this town her whole life. She is, I think, the youngest sibling of this family. In Love Light Farms, you're following a specific family. And I believe she's the youngest. She is so cool. She has cool girl vibes. She's a tattoo artist. She has tattoos all over the place. And she's just awesome. She's our black cat. She doesn't take crap from anybody. Which that could be me. Isn't me. Wish it could be me. And then we have Charlie. Charlie actually is not from this town. I believe a sibling or someone he's related to married someone and then moved to this town. I'm not positive on that just because I haven't read the other ones before going into this one, but like I'm pretty sure that's who Charlie is. Charlie is from the business world though, but he loves this small town. He loves it so much. But Charlie is a golden retriever through and through. And he is just so drawn to Nova, immediately obsessed, in love, infatuated with her. And Nova knows this. Nova is aware of this, and she's like, you know what? Let's have some fun with Charlie. Let's have a little fun. I deserve it. I'm opening up my own tattoo parlor. And so she literally tells Charlie, like, hey, like, let's hang out a little bit. Let's hang out with one another, just us, at my house. They decide to have a little business casual, friends with benefits relationship. This book is so good. It comes out in July. You need to put this one on your radar. One of my favorite tropes is in this book. It's when one of the characters gets sick and the other character does everything in their power to take care of them. And I loved it. Loved it so much. Did I say 4.75? Because 4.75. Okay, speaking of Love Light Farms, I went back in the series and I read Mixed Signals by B.K. Borison. Now this is book 3. You would think that if I were going back like after reading the 4th book, I'd be like, yeah, like let's actually go to book 1 and go from there. No. I'm apparently doing the series in reverse because this is all Barnes & Noble had. This one is so good. Oh, I loved it. This one we are following Layla and Caleb. Layla basically has been on a string of horrible dates and she just believes that she's so bad at dating. On one of her dates, she runs into Caleb, who is a part of their small town, so they know each other really well, and he tells her the same exact thing. He's like, you know what, I am so bad at dating too. It's not just you. And he says, hey, what if we fake date each other so that we can teach one another how to be better on dates? So we can see what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right. Let's just go on a few fake dates. It's so good and it's so fun and I'm absolutely obsessed with this one. She owns a bakery, by the way, so all the baked goods you could ever imagine. It's just the most atmospheric book you could ever ask for, and I loved it. 4.25 stars because there's something towards the end of this book that I really did not love and I thought was just like a little unnecessary, but I honestly just think that that's a personal preference. So for all I know, you could love that and you could end up really, really loving this book. But for me, something that was a little unnecessary, didn't have to happen, happened. 4.25 stars. I need to read books 1 and 2. But I guess we're probably going to read 2 since I'm going in reverse order. Next I read Happy Place by Emily Henry. This was the last Emily Henry book that I had on my shelf, so now I have to wait until probably next year when her newest release comes out, whenever the heck that'll be. And it makes me so sad. I absolutely adored this book. It was so good. This was a 5 out of 5. At first I was like, maybe it was like an emotionally charged 5 out of 5 because I was broken and crying and kind of happy but also like so sad. But no, it was not an emotionally charged 5. It was just a pure 5. Oh, I loved it so much. I feel like I've explained this book a ton of times, but I'll do a quick little recap for y'all. We're following Win and Harriet. They are part of the same friend group. Eventually they start dating and then they get engaged. Everyone is so flippin' happy for them. And they've been engaged for a little bit and all of a sudden their relationship is over. We as the readers don't really know why, but as you keep reading the book, you slowly find out. Harry gets invited to go hang out with her 2 best friends from college at one of their families. It's not a beach house, but it's like this really, really nice house up in Maine. She goes, she's like, this is my time to finally come clean, tell them about Win, tell them what happened, and then I can finally move forward with my life. Joke's on her, because when she shows up, she sees Win, and Win literally walks over to her and starts treating her like his girlfriend or his fiance. And Harriet's like, what? Like, am I in the Twilight Zone? What? What is happening? Why are you doing this to me? And he's like, just hold on, just bear with me for a second. Just let our friend over here explain. And her friend says, oh guys, yeah, we're not just here to hang out. We're here because I'm getting married. And so Win and Harriet literally look at each other and they're like, oh, we can't tell anyone that we're no longer engaged because this is going to ruin our friend's wedding. The whole entire book, they're faking their engagement. They're keeping up this facade, but it's bringing up a lot of feelings for them because both of them are not emotionally over this relationship that happened. We see what happened in their past. We're seeing what's happened in present day, and it's so good. It's so good. Not my favorite Emily Henry book, but it was a 5 out of 5. I think it's my 3rd favorite, maybe 4th favorite. I don't know. I love Emily Henry so much. This one's great, but just know that it's called Happy Place, but you won't be in a happy place when you're reading it. You will be sad. You will be sad. And probably cry. Moving on. After Happy Place, I need something drastically different, and so I picked up Butcher and Blackbird. This is the weirdest book I've ever read, but like low-key, I loved it. Low-key, I was living my best life. This was a 4.25 star rating. You, in this book, are following 2 serial unalivers. We'll call them that. Think like 2 Dexters in an almost relationship, or like Joe and Love in an almost relationship, kind of infatuation, but not actually going to go there, but maybe go there, who actually knows. Yes. This book is crazy. This book made it so that I never really want to have cookies and cream ice cream again. Like, genuinely, the thought of that, like, repulses me a little bit. But this is a dark romantic comedy. It's dark, but it's also so funny. And it's low-key wholesome. Like, I was not expecting this book to be wholesome, and it was. Pleasantly surprised. At the end of this, I am fully convinced that book 2 is going to be my book. At the end of this, you get a little snippet into what's kind of going to happen in book 2, and I'm like, sold. I am literally sold. It's involving 2 of my favorite characters. I'm excited. It's going to be good. I think the second book comes out in June. So it's almost here. After I finished Butcher and Blackbird, I needed a really quick read because literally the next day, Wild Love by Elsie Silver came out, and so I was like, well, I want to read something, but I don't want to be in the middle of something when Wild Love comes out. I was recommended the Kindle Unlimited book Voyer Cafe, which is a really weird name, and it was actually a really fun book. I had a nice time with it. Very, very quick read. This was a debut. I love a good debut. Our main female character rents half of this building out for a cafe, and then the other half is kind of up in the air, but she wants to save enough money so that she can buy it, and it can be a big cafe. But the person that she's leasing from is like, you know what, screw that. That's not happening anytime soon, so I'm just gonna sell this. And so he basically sells the whole entire building to this man who wants to use it as a garage for all of his motorcycles and to fix up other people's motorcycles. Fangirl is allowed to stay until her lease is up, but she's trying to find other options. But the reason it's called Voyer Cafe is because the way this building is set up, it's split in half, but it's split in half by a window. And so it's this giant window where you can peek in to see everything that's happening in the cafe, and then you peek in and see everything that's happening in the little motorcycle area, which is where that little attraction comes into play. It's a little bit of enemies to lovers, a little bit of instant love from him, but from her, enemies to lovers. They butt heads. The chemistry is really flipping good. 3 stars just because some things I think could have been edited out / didn't have to happen, like really did not help the plot. But again, it's a debut, so I feel like it can only get better and better. I believe that there's a sequel coming out. I don't know if I'm going to read it or not, but I did have a nice time with it, and it was super quick. After Voyer Cafe, I read Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This was one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I'm going to just give you all a quick little trope rundown because I do have a video where I go very much in depth on this book. So if you want to know more, again, check out the video. But this is single dad, brother's best friend, small town, forced proximity, a little bit of like a workplace romance. It's Always Been You. It's amazing. And every single book in this series is going to be a single dad romance. You heard that right. Every book is going to be a single dad romance. It's amazing. Ford Grant, our main male character, is all the best parts of Cade Eaton, and then all the best parts of Theo Silva. And I didn't think that was possible. It's so good. It'll have you looking at your pens a little differently. When you're writing stuff down, it'll have you look at your pens a little differently. If you know, you know. That's all I gotta say. 5 stars? Did I say that? That's actually now all I have to say. Next, I read Fangirl Down by Tessa Bailey. I also have a reading vlog of my experience in this book, so I'm really not going to go too much in depth into it, but 2.75 stars, I think. This was definitely my lowest rated book of the month, which is a little sad, but also Tessa Bailey is very hit or miss for me. So like it kind of makes sense. I'm expecting the sequel to be even better than this one. Again, we have another single parent thing coming up, which I love, and it's hockey. And I think it's between a scientist and a hockey player, and like that's kind of cool. This one was good, like don't get me wrong, but I didn't really like the beginning. It took me 90 pages to get into it. The middle was fun. I didn't really like the ending either. And by that point, I was just a little over it. But I do think I'm in the minority for this opinion. I know so many people that absolutely loved it. So this one's on your TBR. Please still check it out because just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you. Just not my favorite. Had me cringing just a little bit. But that's okay. Next, Taming 7 by Chloe Walsh came out. This was honestly one of my most anticipated releases of the year, this one and Wild Love. I enjoyed this one a lot. I really did. Is it my favorite out of the whole series? No. This is probably a 4.5 star rating, which like really hurt while I was reading it because I have given every single other book in this series a 5 star. And so I was just anticipating this to be a 5 star. But it needed to be longer. It really did. Certain parts were rushed when they shouldn't have been. And it also didn't feel like these people's book. Like, I don't know how else to describe that. It didn't feel like Claire and Gibbs's book. It felt like a different character's book, which makes sense because that is going to be who the next book is about. But I didn't want their book to feel like a stepping stone, and it kind of did, just a little bit, in my opinion. But also 4.5 stars is not bad. I still enjoyed it. Well, I don't think enjoy is the word I want to use because I was actually distraught and broken and hurting, but that's how I am in all of the Boys of Tommen. Every single one of those books. I am broken and hurting and am sobbing my eyes out. So enjoy is a weird term to put, but I was present. 4.5 stars. Just, I needed a little more, but I'm excited for the next book to come out. I feel like if books 5 and 6 were one book, it probably would have ended up being a 5 star for me. Also, before you go into not only this book, but the rest of the books in the Boys of Tommen series, please look up the trigger warnings because they are so heavy. So heavy. I was so broken after Taming 7, and so I needed something that was completely different from the rest of the books that I was reading, and so I picked up First Light Wins by Ashley Elston. I have a vlog for this one as well, so again, I will not be going too much in depth, but I really enjoyed this one. I believe I gave it 4.25 stars? Maybe 4.5? I'm not positive on that. I also might need to check the video to see what I ended up giving it. I really like this one though. This one was such a fun thriller that I really needed. The pacing was amazing. The pacing was so good. And the only reason I didn't rate it any higher is because there were certain things that I think could have been cut out. As in, I needed the author to focus in a little more on certain characters or just cut them out completely. Because I did not understand their purpose. But I really love this one and I really want to read the rest of her backlist. So good. For that, I read Expiration Dates, and I was thoroughly surprised by this one. I didn't know anything about it, and I really enjoyed it. I'm giving it 4 stars. It is about 250 pages, and so I needed this book to be longer. I needed just a little more, like literally 50 more pages, and it probably would have been like a 4.5, 4.75, maybe a 5. Who the heck knows? But I loved her writing style. It was so moving. I shed a tear or two. A few tears were shed. And I had a really nice time. There's a reading vlog for this one as well, so again, not gonna go into too many details, Just know that I ate this up. I really, really ate this one up, and I'm so excited to read more from her. I've heard through a lot of mutuals that the way I felt in this book, they felt in some of her other ones, where it should have just had a little more to it. But who knows? I could end up loving it, and I hope that I do. Again, her writing style is really fun. Next, I read King of Pride and King of Greed by Anna Huang. These are books 2 and 3 in the Kings of Sin series. I really enjoyed both of these. I'm giving King of Pride 4 stars and King of Greed 4.75 stars. So good. Again, reading vlog. You should check it out. I really feel like I was vlogging like a mad woman this month, but like, period. Look at me go. Killing it out here. My only thing with Anna Huang books is sometimes her books are like a little too repetitive for me. And she also does these like crazy outlandish things towards the end of her books where I'm like, why? Why in the last 10% did you add this in? And that's happened to me in King of Pride. It almost happened to me in King of Greed. Like almost did. But that's exactly what happened to me in King of Pride. I'll say one more thing, because I'm currently reading King of Sloth while I'm filming this video. I wish I would have waited a little bit in between each book because it does really feel very repetitive. So it's like taking me a little bit to get into it because I'm like, well, I feel like I've already read this. So that's a little bit of a bummer. So if you're going into the series, I would definitely recommend maybe not binging it and just having a little space in between to give yourself a breather. But still good, still very much enjoyed it. I started Off to the Races by Elsie Silver. I was a little disappointed by this one. I gave this one 3 stars. Again, I enjoyed it, but I was kind of wishing it would end so that I could read something else, which honestly is not the best feeling in the world. But this is the first book in her Gold Rush Ranch series, which I believe is her first book that she's ever put out. That could be wrong, but like I'm fairly confident in that statement. And so I think that's why it wasn't my favorite. I really do feel like sometimes, especially like when you start reading the author's new releases and then you go back to their backlist, some of them don't hit as much just because they haven't gotten their groove yet, and that is perfectly fine. I'm happy that I read it, and I want to continue on in this series. I have heard that the books get better and better and better and better as you go on. This one just was not my fave at all. And I'm going to have to look up the characters' names because I don't think I remember them to even tell y'all, which is slightly embarrassing. Okay, Vaughn and Billy. Their names are Vaughn and Billy. So Vaughn just inherited this big ranch from his grandfather. I think his grandfather just passed, and there was a scandal that went down that like he kind of fudged some numbers, faked some things. Yes. So Vaughn is trying to fix his family's name, but also his late grandfather's reputation because they were really close when Vaughn was growing up. Vaughn is needing to hire some people to help train the horses so that they can do their best and win all the races. He ends up hiring Billy. Billy has a little bit of a secret life. She actually comes from a very wealthy family, but she does not disclose any of that to Vaughn whatsoever. You do see this in the prologue, which is why I feel comfortable enough telling you all this. It's not a spoiler. He is her boss. She loves what she does. And sometimes they butt heads, but they also have a really good connection. That's what I'm going to say, spoiler free. Workplace romance, they butt heads a lot. Forced proximity, yes. I just really could not connect to anyone in that story. Like really, I struggled to connect, but I've heard book 2 is really, really good. And so I'm going to continue on in the series. After this, we have our final 2 books. Here With Me and Stay With Me, both by Brooke Montgomery. Here With Me is the first book in this series. They're on Kindle Unlimited, by the way. And we are following Noah and Fisher. Noah goes to a rodeo and she sees this older guy in the crowd. He's probably like twice her age, so it is an age gap. She sees him. She's in her 20s, by the way. Like, let me just clarify. Like, she's in her 20s. It's not a fresh 18 thing. Like, she's in her 20s. And she sees him like looking at her and she's like, oh my gosh, she's actually like so cute. So cute. She goes up to talk to him. They have instant chemistry. They hang out for a little bit and then things happen. Things happen. It's an amazing time. And then she goes to leave. She sees that his wallet is out. So she's like, oh, like, let me just check. I never even got his last name. So let me just check. So like if I ever want to see him again, maybe I can find him. And she sees that it's the same name as her ex-boyfriend. The same exact last name as her ex-boyfriend. And she goes, oh, okay, well, my ex-boyfriend is not close to his dad in any way, shape, or form, and every single thing that he told me about his dad is basically everything that this guy that is in his bed right now told me. And she was like, I just slept with my ex-boyfriend's dad. time to be alive, guys. It was crazy. It was drama filled. I kind of ate it up. I think I'm gonna give it 3.75 stars. Like, it was just a fun time. Like, it leaned into the silliness, and it was a very quick read. Now let's pan to Stay With Me by Brooke Montgomery, the sequel. We are following Noah's best friend, Magnolia. And Magnolia has always been in love with Noah's brother, Trip. Her whole life, been so in love with him. So it's a little bit of best friend's brother trope, and it's so good. I'm not going to tell y'all another trope that's actually a pretty big part of this book, because spoilers, I need you to experience it. But let me tell y'all something. The epilogue in the first book, low-key spoiled the second book for me, because it revealed a trope that wasn't in the synopsis, and I was like, oh, like, I didn't know, like, this is what the second book was going to be about. How interesting. And I go to start the second book, and the whole time I'm like, when is this scene happening? Like, when is this thing that I learned in the epilogue going to happen? I don't understand. Like, why hasn't it occurred yet? I get 65% into the book, and the exact scene that is the epilogue, word for word, is here. 65% into the book is that exact scene. So if you don't want that experience that I had, maybe skip the epilogue in the first book, because I was just so confused. I was so confused the whole time. But normally it's a trope I don't like at all, and I actually think the author did a really good job with it. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I thought this one was way better than the first one. 4.5 stars, and I believe the third book comes out this month, which is just so exciting. Again, though, it is a trope that I'm not a fan of, but I didn't read the epilogue for book 2. I said, ain't no way I'm reading this one, because it spoiled book 2 for me. Why would I want it to potentially spoil book 3? Anyway, I digress. Those are all the books I read in April. Thank you all so much for being here, and let me know down below what your favorite book of the month is. Ooh, I'm so excited to see. That's all I have, so I will see y'all later. Bye, everyone. Love y'all.